what would you do if you could not fail? And this question started coming to me very often. And I was like, wow, how do I answer this question in a real way? And the answer was always like traveling more. And I knew that if I didn't travel more and I die, I would regret that. This is the main thing I would regret. So I was like, okay, stop thinking about what you would do and take actions to create the lifestyle you want to have. So this question, what would you do if you could not fail, followed me until a point I was like, I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm tired of answering this question. I want to live it.
Welcome, everybody. I am super excited to have Juliana Rabbi here today to talk to us about career transitions to a lifestyle that makes you happy, how she went from an employee to a business owner to create a more free lifestyle, travel more, and share a little bit about what she's been doing with that. So first of all, welcome. Thank you for coming out to speak with us today, Juliana.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Awesome. So Juliana has 15 years of experience working as a recruiter in multinational companies. She's interviewed thousands of candidates and has been working remotely for over 7 years. And she enjoys helping people to be happier with their career and lifestyle. So this is right up our alley for what we're talking about. What we talked about in the pre-interview that I would love it if you'd start with, if you don't mind, Juliana, is just a little bit about your story of transition and wanting a little more financial stability. What was that like for you, and how did you get on this path?
Yeah. So I think that there are some major changes in my life. So I was born in Brazil, and when I was 25 or 26, I moved to Spain. So there was a big change already in my life, and it kind of opened up my mind to travel more, to get to know new people, different lifestyles and all of that. So there was a big like, wow, there is more out there than I was used to have. That was the first thing. And then I really got into travel. I find out that I really love traveling, and that's one of my main passions. So I was trying to, travel more and more, but still I was working. So I had a full-time job. I was working as a recruiter for different companies in Spain. And I had to squeeze my traveling into the weekends or holidays, all of that, which was okay until a certain point. But at some point I was like, you know what? I want more of that, more of my passion, more of the things that I really like. So I was working as a recruiter, and I started working remotely actually 2014. There was some internal change in my company. So the funny part is that I didn't choose to go remote at the first point. It just happened to me. I was like, okay, what am I going to do now, right? How do I organize my lifestyle, my routine? But it was easy for me getting adapted to it, getting used to it, and I started loving it. So I started bringing some more traveling to my life. But at some point, it was like, I still want more. I want to travel more. And the fact that it was a remote contract, but I still had to be in Spain. I still had to, ask for permission to do longer trips and all of that. So I decided, you know what, the next step for me, the next thing that made sense in my life, in my career, was to work on my own, to have my own business, because then I would have completely freedom to be location independent and still make money and all of that. But for me, the financial stability was one of the things. So there was different pillars important in the process, but I didn't want to just, quit my job and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. I know that works for some people. They're like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to find a way, but not for me. So for me, the financial part was an important aspect. So for 2 years, I was still with my full-time job, working 40 hours per week. And parallel to it, I was creating my own business. So I was working like crazy, like 11, 12 hours. Wow. Just by saying that, I'm still like, wow, I need to breathe, because it was very intense at that time. But I knew what I wanted. And this kind of transition, although it was hard at the moment, for me, it was the only way to go, because I needed to, create a financial stability and test out the market also, because at the very beginning I was like, what am I going to do working on my own? So there was the thing about also testing the market and the services that I was offering, get some feedback, improving my service. So this transition worked perfect for me. There was a lot of work involved, but during 2 years I combined my full-time job, created my business. I was also collaborating with 2 companies as a freelancer, doing pretty much the same thing, preparing candidates for job interviews and doing resumes and LinkedIn profile, all of that. So I went from working in a company, working as a freelancer, creating my own business. And then 2 years later, I quit my job and I started traveling full time and working on my own. And that was 2019. So that was my transition to a more free lifestyle that I love, by the way.
That is awesome. Thank you. There's so much in that, what you just said there. First thing is that it's something that you had to have. And there's something I've heard, I think Wayne Dyer had mentioned, and it's a quote by Abraham Maslow, that he said, people who are looking to self-actualize, they have to be what they can be. They have to do what they can do. And yet there's a flip side of that where some people think, and at one time I did, that that means, okay, I'm going to do exactly the job I want, exactly what I like to do, exactly how I want to do it, and it's going to pay me millions. And it's going to be very easy. It's just going to flow. Kind of like the myth that marriage is easy, let's say, or raising kids is just easy, that there's no work to it just because there can be joy in it. And what I like that you did is you moved towards it. Gosh, there's so many things here. So many people also have a high degree of expectation that it's going to happen very quickly. And they actually get on themselves. They get down on themselves if things don't happen very quickly. So they think, okay, I'm doing this wrong. And I think that's why a lot of people stop. They think it's supposed to happen right away. And I'm blessed to have had a father, or have a father, who was an entrepreneur. And he always taught me, Wade, anything that's good as a business is going to take at least 3 to 5 years to get going. And that's about what you did. You started it while you were working. You're willing to put in the time. So it's not just this, oh, well, I want this from the universe and I'm just going to sit here and wait for it to happen. You made it happen. Tell me, if you don't mind sharing, because you mentioned now, that was a 5-year transition. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. But then when you come out the other side, and I know this as an entrepreneur, you feel so much better. What would you say to the person who's saying, I'm not sure if I can do it? Your way seems to be actually a safer path, a more intelligent path, a wiser path that's more likely to succeed. What would you say to that person who knows they want to do it, but they're afraid of starting?
Yeah. And being afraid of starting is normal. I mean, it's a major change in your life. So there is nothing wrong with feeling afraid. And I think it's a good feeling because it makes you think and create a strategy. You don't go just like crazy and give up on everything that you have. It's not about it. Some people do like that. But again, for me, it's about planning and creating that and testing that. So it's okay to feel afraid. That's the first thing. Let's make our peace with that. Second, I think it's creating a strategy. It's having a plan, because try so many different things. Your energy and your time will go, into different directions, and you're going to lose focus. So define what you want. In my case, it was like, okay, I have 15 years experience as a recruiter. I'm a psychologist. I have an HR master and blah, blah. So I know how to do it from the company's point of view. So I'm going to change sides. That how I like to think about it. I change side, and now I help candidates to land a job faster. And because I was working remotely for 7 years already, it was like, I want to help people to land a remote job. So I bring, my life experience, my work experience all together, and I'm going to help people. So this was the plan. This was the strategy. And I also have to say that at that time, I hired a coach to help me in the process, because it was overwhelming in my mind. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to do it. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this alone. This is too hard for me. I'm busy. So I had a coach who helped me like a lot in the process. So having a strategy, asking for help if you consider that is necessary. And also don't be afraid of starting small, because when I started my business, I knew it was not going to be the business. I knew it was not everything that I want. It was not my perfect life, and I'm not in my perfect life yet. So I'm evolving, I'm changing, and so many things change already in this process. So I was like, which is the first step that I can do to make this new life true? So I didn't want to go crazy and invest a lot of money and test brand new ideas. I was like, what do I know how to do, which is my background, what people come for me for, what I have a reputation around it. I could have started something brand new, and some people do it, but I was like, the easiest way for me was like, what I know how to do, I'm going to ask for help and I'm going to test it. So it was like a small step. It was a big step, but it was like I didn't change everything and it started brand new. So I put all the knowledge I had into that step. So that's creating a strategy, asking for help if you want, and you don't need to shift completely what you do, like ignore your background and start a brand new career just because some people work remotely and they have that career. No, you can start with what you want, with what you have in your backpack, all your knowledge, your skills, your background, your stories, your connections, your network. Start with that, build up like the next step, and things will change naturally. It's like it's wrong to think that we can plan everything and they are gonna, happen just like we plan. Also, just go for the next step, and then things will unfold as it happens. Because otherwise, we keep like paralyzed and waiting for the perfect moment, which will never happen.
Awesome. Gosh, there's so much to that too. And it's one of the things I love is when you talk to somebody who's done something and has done it over a period of time, there's so many lessons that I'm sure you could write a book about that you're not mentioning, but you're giving the highlights. And in my case, when I started as an entrepreneur, I left my organization, great company, and I actually had plans to do a slightly different type of work. I invested a bunch of money, and without going too much in detail, the plan it fell flat on its face within 3 to 4 months, and it was very clear.
Wow.
And so I went back to consulting to the people who I had worked with before, just like you did. Some was recruiting, sales coaching, basic stuff. And it wasn't all my soul work, my work I always wanted to do. But I thought to myself, if I can have the freedom so for me, it wasn't even 3-day weekend or 4-day work week at first. It was just freedom, like you said, to be able to make my own decisions. Okay, I'll invest some time the same way I might invest some time to get a promotion or a raise or to make more money. I'm going to make that investment to get my own business. But like you said, I didn't start out of nowhere. I had a reputation. I had all these contacts, people I'd worked with. And so it was actually not very difficult to start. And in that business model, I've still made the majority of my income over the last 20 years. I've hardly done any paid advertising because it was a network. I'd networked with people. And so there's so much to that. And again, it was responsible. It's safe. My wife and I have about to be a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. We got to move back and forth to Peru, where she's from, and still live a life, have her be able to be a stay-at-home mom. And in all of that, I haven't always done the exact work I want to do, like you say, and I'm still very much a work in progress. But also, I'm very grateful. I've been able to also be location independent. At that time, that phrase wasn't out. So I used the word, told my wife I wanted to be ageographical, which is, I don't know, because I just wanted to live wherever I wanted to live. And being able to start that and gradually ease into it, it made it almost shift from impossible to inevitable. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm not concerned with exactly when I get there, but I'm going to do it. No different than the whole idea of when somebody says, I'd like to get a degree, a master's degree or a doctorate degree or a college degree or whatever it is. And they say, but it's going to take, 4 years. And you say, well, how old will you be in 4 years? You'll be the same age, whether you do it or whether you don't do it. The only question is whether you have the degree. So I think there's so much wisdom to what you do. And finally, the myth that entrepreneurs are all dangerous and you're taking these risky jumps. And to your point, a lot of that's just irresponsible. If you're at an age where you are living with your parents and you don't have a lot of expenses and you can afford to take those jumps, awesome, go for it. If you're in a situation with your responsibilities, it might be that it takes a longer path. And if you're also looking to enjoy your family, it might even take a slightly longer path. But in my case, it took me 22 years after starting in the workforce and 15 years after starting as an entrepreneur to get to the 3-day weekend lifestyle I have in a 4-day work week. And it's still worth it. And I'm still here. So I would do it again if I had to do it. How did you, some of the mechanics, I'd be curious, again, going back to how you stabilize things, how did you stabilize your income? And how did you mention something to me in the pre-interview that you knew your first attempt didn't have to be your final version? Because I think that mindset is so huge. I think that might be one of the main reasons, again, expectation, why you've done so well. Would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I like to take the design thinking approach. So basically, instead of knowing everything from the beginning, having a complete clear vision of that, I start, even if I have doubts, even if I don't have everything clear. So I start testing, prototyping ideas. I see how I feel in the process. I see if I like it. I learn in the process, then I can always come back and take a different path and all of that. So that removed a lot of pressure from my shoulder. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start. And the start took me 2 years, but it was like, I'm going to do it, even if it's not perfect, even if I don't know if I'm going to really enjoy the situation, all of that. So I took this approach of, I'm going to give it a try. And on the financial side, I was like very clear to myself about, okay, this is the amount of money I have this is the amount of money I'm willing to invest in this dream. At the beginning, it was a dream for me, like, okay, have my own business and travel the world and work at the same time. So when it was still a dream, I was like, this is the amount of money I'm willing to touch. If I need to, if I'm not making enough money to live, I'm gonna touch until this amount of money. So it was clear for me, I didn't go into any debits. So out of my savings, I chose, a certain amount. This is the maximum I'm willing to put if I'm not making any money. So I was covering the worst case scenario because I have my own expenses and I don't live with my parents and all of that. So I had to pay my bills and my lifestyle. Because also I didn't want to go in a, let's say, cheaper lifestyle. I know some people are okay with that, but I didn't want to live in hostels and, sharing apartment or, cooking at home. I wanted to live a nice lifestyle. So it was like, okay, I'm not going lower. I want to keep at least the same lifestyle I have, and I'm willing to touch this amount of money. And another thing I did in the 2 years that I was transitioning from having my full-time job, working as a freelancer and creating my own business was like, I was checking how much money I was making per month. And when I got into a certain amount that I can live with that money without touching those savings that I said before, then that's when I quit my job. So there were different stages on the process, but so far I didn't touch the savings, but I'm okay if I have to, because it's like, it's planned. So it kind of free my mind from what if everything goes wrong? Well, I have a plan B, a solid plan B. So, and then I can create a plan C. So having options, I think it's important. Think about the finances. It's also important to do it. And this approach of, I don't need to know everything at the very beginning, because I think we never know. And when we start the journey, we keep changing. I changed my business so much in those, 2-3 years already. And I know I'm going to keep changing. So it's okay to do that. And yeah, it's a learning process, but we need to start, because otherwise it's all here and we never make the change.
Yeah, I like that approach of making it safer by doing the groundwork. In anything, if you practice at something for years and years, it's not going to be surprised if you're good at, whether it's a sport or a musical instrument or whatever it might be. And I think a lot of people, I look at my situation, I actually had overblown confidence because my father's an entrepreneur. I came from that company. In that company, had I stayed there, there was a very secure laid out path of how I would do very well. And I just assumed, well, I'm the same guy. If I go over here into this other opportunity, it's going to be the same. And it definitely wasn't. Same guy, different situation. And so I know in sports, they sometimes call it unjustified confidence. Like I had unjustified confidence. I was overconfident. And so it caused me to be a little overly optimistic. I think as entrepreneurs, we do this sometimes. Oh, I'll invest in this one course and I can buy my way in. In other words, if I invest enough in this course, it's going to make, $100 course, that probably won't work. But if I get $1,000 course, oh wait, no, I'm going to get a $10,000 course. If I get a $10,000 course, then it's going to work out. It's like, no, the course isn't going to do it for you. It's the work that you have to do. And yet I think there's so much wisdom to what you're saying. And I love that you decided you weren't going to compromise your lifestyle. Not that a person should or shouldn't, but so many people say, well, I will compromise or I'm willing to give up this. But what you were willing to do is be patient. So you were willing to give in that area. It wasn't like you said, well, it's going to be exactly my way. Otherwise, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. You said, it's going to be this, but I'm willing to be open. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't take action on because, again, the jump feels so big. Why do you think that most people give up? Is it that they make it to be too big of a monster, that they make it to be all or nothing? What are the main reasons why people either never start this or fail at this attempt?
It can be because they make it out of a monster, like they imagine it's going to be impossible, too hard to get there, or they compare themselves with others that are making tons of money and that are years ahead, but they don't see the process. It's like, don't compare your stage with backstage or something like that, right? So they have some reference, but they don't understand everything that was behind the process. Normally people see the final result and they don't see the process. So in my case, those 2 years that I was working 11, 12 hours per day, Monday to Monday, people didn't see that because literally I was at home working. So it was not something I was showing because I was busy doing the work. So when people, oh, you're so lucky, now you can travel the world and work. I hate this word lucky because it's like, no, look at what I was doing 2 years ago, 2 years behind preparing that. And look what I do now every day to keep up with my business and all of that. So people tend to see the final result and don't understand everything that is behind that. I think this is one reason. Another reason is don't have a plan. Just have the idea, but don't make it concrete. Don't materialize that into actions. Okay, so which is the first step I need to take, which is the second step, the third step. So they remain dreaming, seated on the couch and imagining a different lifestyle that will never happen because they're not putting the time and the effort. And also it's like, sometimes we let other people make the decision for us instead of really connecting with what is important for me, what do I care about, what am I willing to, pay the price to have, and how do I get there? Because when I did this transition, I remember a lot of people were telling me, wow, Juliana, your life is perfect. I was living in Barcelona at the time in Spain. So it was like, you live in Barcelona, you live in a great apartment, your neighborhood is amazing, you already work remotely, you travel a lot, your life is perfect, right? And inside I was like, do you want it for you? I'm giving away my life because I'm not happy with that. But from the outside, people were always saying, wow, you have a perfect life. And I could have settled for that if I was just listening to others and their feedback, because it was not a bad life, it was a good life, but I knew that I could have more. And for me, it was important. So stop listening to others and look inside and decide what you care about, what is important for you. And then that will hopefully motivated you to take actions, to create an action plan, to stop comparing with others that are years ahead and focus on your own process.
Yeah, I think there's almost the two extremes. There's the people who have no plan. And then I've done this at certain times. I've actually done both of these. The other extreme is to think that you have to know, like a psychic, all 20 steps of what's coming, instead of saying, here's the next 2 or 3 steps. Here's the next 90 days. I'm 49. Other than a couple vision exercises, I usually don't plan my life more than about 90 days in advance. And some people might say that's irresponsible. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I know the foundations. I'm willing to work. I'm willing to do what I need to do to pay the bills, that sort of stuff. But what I've also found is there's so many limitations. And I've studied so many authors. I have a master's degree in psychology. I've spent over 100,000 on coaching, this and that. So I'm one of those people. If you're one of those people like say, wait, did you study? Were you open-minded? Yes, I've been sometimes stupidly open-minded, as my wife would say, as far as money and expenses. But at the same time, there are things that, in my experience, when you go on a journey and you're willing to open up, that in a month from now, there's 5 other options that you hadn't even considered. And I don't mean crazy stuff. So people say like, no, I'm not joining the circus. And there's nothing wrong with joining the circus. I have no desire to join the circus. So that's not going to probably happen for me. Now, if I'm in the circus a month from now, you can laugh at me, but I don't see myself in the circus. But it's still something of possibilities. And usually it's either something that flows better, or it's bigger, or it's more true to what you're about, or it helps more people. And it's something that almost can't be, there's not a formula to it. So on one hand, I think it's great when people will work a process. Like they'll say, Wade, you know what, if you want to get good at something, I know my father taught me this, study what the best people do. And there's brilliance to that. Hey, if you want to be a great soccer player, study what Pele or Maradona or Messi did, or whatever it is. But then there's also certain parts where it can become too scripted. Like I see people when they're doing product launches or business launches or book launches, there's wisdom and you want to say, well, hey, these things generally work, great. But then there's a part where some of them, they're so rigidly following as if it's a recipe or a formula. And it's like, that's like trying to write a hit song, or trying to make a viral video. There's not actually, so you want to be informed enough that, okay, this is kind of what it looks like. So you want to obey best practices. This is not saying you have no framework, but at the same time, if you get so caught in that, that's where the magic gets lost. That's where, because all you're doing then is repeating what somebody else did. And almost by definition, it's not going to be magic. Now, if you say, wait, I don't need magic, I just need predictable income, great. Then that's a system. That's what systems are for. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're trying to connect with what's important to you, I think that can be difficult. One of the things you mentioned was you wanted you to be proud of your life. Why was that such a big drive, and what's that feel like now that, or actually, where are you on that continuum as far as where you're at?
That always started when I got clarity about my values, which are my core values, which are the things I really deeply care about. And then purpose is one of my values. Has always been. I didn't have a name for it, but at some point I was like, oh, that's it, purpose. So for me, it's important to feel that what I do make a difference, make an impact on other people. And when people were telling me, oh, you have a perfect life, but I was not feeling it, it didn't make any sense for me because it was not an external validation. I have to say my life is good, that I like, that I enjoy. So everybody else can be telling me the opposite, but if I know I'm on the path that makes sense to me, then that's when I'm happy. So this is what I call purpose. And the change I did towards being digital nomad or location independent, work on my own business was very aligned to it because I was like, I'm sacrificing a big part of my life because I want to be a good professional. But I still want to be a good professional, but I don't want to put aside the lifestyle I want to have and the thing about traveling and getting to know new people and all of that. So I was like, how can I do both things? Still take care of my work aspect of life, the pillar, because it's important to me, but respecting my values. I have other values, but the purpose was one of the main ones that drove me towards this change. It's still in progress, the purple thing. So I don't feel like I'm done yet. And probably if I feel I'm done yet, I'm going to go for new values because I still tune in the work I do, the kind of services I offer, the way I serve my clients, the kind of message I put out there on social media, for example. So I always try to take one step back and think, is this really aligned with my purpose? Am I happy doing that? Do I see any meaning, deep meaning on it? Am I helping people making the impact I want to make? So still in progress, but it's all aligned with understanding my core values and making them more present in my life.
Awesome. One of the things that I think you seem to have down pretty well is this balance of being content with where you are and yet still wanting to grow. I know a lot of people struggle with that. And I think definitely part of it is what you mentioned about the over comparison. And I know comparison is just something we do naturally as human beings. We say, okay, well, you did it that way. How did you bake your cake? How did you, whatever it is. And so again, it can be helpful in the sense of giving you guidance. That's how we learn language. There's so many things that we learn from modeling. So it's certainly not a bad thing, but there's a part where it can lead to just this constant state of discontent because you're looking at 20 other people and you want to be like all of them. And by definition, one of them is, I don't know, let's say one of them is a minimalist and one of them has, a huge yacht. And like, okay, how do I be a minimalist with a yacht? So some of the things are just really, it's not, they're just almost contradictory. How have you been able to be content with where you are and yet still have the drive to keep improving? And what's that balance like?
Sometimes the balance doesn't work out for me, okay? So this is something I need to be alert. So I'm not perfect in this process. And sometimes I catch myself comparing with other people that are, living fully the lifestyle I want to live, or they manage better their working hours, or they make a bigger impact. So this is something I constantly work on it. Sometimes I do it better. Sometimes I'm like, okay, Juliana, this is too much. Focus on yourself again. But the main strategy or what I have behind when I try to do that is compare myself with my previous self. So like when I started this journey 3 years ago, which were the dreams that I had, where was I in that moment, and then see where I am in this moment and acknowledge the journey that I have done and celebrate that. So this is one thing. Always look back to myself, to my life, and see, okay, this is everything that you have walked. And also another thing is to celebrate the small victories. So at some point I was just celebrating big things in my life, but now it's like, okay, one new client, I'm going to celebrate. It's a new country that I'm visiting, I'm going to celebrate. I bought this thing that I want, I'm going to celebrate, because we also train our brain to, enjoy those little things. So it's not in 10 years time when I get there, it's like the journey and the steps. So the celebrating small steps, small achievements has helped me to also value more what I have, because sometimes we take for granted that, yeah, whatever. So until I have this thing, I'm not happy. No, I'm happy because I have this, and that. So also journaling, I do a lot of that, like gratitude journal, and write down everything that I care about, everything that put a smile on my face. And it can be like, it was a sunny day, I went out for lunch, or it can be like a major thing, but like acknowledge the small things. So writing helps me a lot to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. What's been the most important element to help you in this process? What would you not have been able to do this if you didn't have?
By this process, you mean my career transition, my life transition, and all of that? What has been more important? I think the main drive I had in the whole process was like, I knew I wanted it. I was clear that it doesn't matter if it's going to be hard. It doesn't matter if it won't work out. I have to do it. So it always started, now looking back, right, trying to connect the dots. I remember doing different kind of workshops and self-knowledge activity and all of that. A lot of people were asking, like, what would you do if you could not fail? And this question started coming to me very often. And I was like, wow, how do I answer this question in a real way? And the answer was always like, traveling more. And I knew that if I didn't travel more and I die, I would regret that. This is the main thing I would regret. So I was like, okay, stop thinking about what you would do and take actions to create the lifestyle you want to have. So this question, what would you do if you could not fail, followed me until a point I was like, I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm tired of answering this question. I want to live it. There was a thing. So that's when I started like, okay, it's time to take actions and shift everything. So yeah, I think the main motivation was like, I want to live the life that I was dreaming about. I want to build it up that, and that's what I'm doing until now. But at least I can say I'm on the way. I'm walking towards the life I want to have, and it's much better now. Definitely much better now than before. I feel the alignment with the things I was talking about and saying from here, but they are not connecting with here with my heart. So now it's like, okay, I'm going towards the direction I want to go, towards the direction that makes sense to me.
That's awesome. So one of the other things that I think is so interesting, and I can't fully relate to because I have a father who's an entrepreneur, and I had that background. You mentioned me, you had no idea about business. Nobody in your family was an entrepreneur. So
Exactly.
how did you look to other people? You mentioned you took courses, like, how did you know that you had learned enough that you could take action? What was that process like?
I didn't know, and I still don't know. This is a learning process for me because this is completely new from my background, from my family. Both of my parents are doctors, and they had like a stable job. They work at the same place for their whole life. Most of my friends at that time, like before I made this step, they were also like traditional career path. Land a job, work for a company, get the career progression, the corporate area. So this was, and I keep saying it is still very new for me. So there are like, 3 years of my life that I have been as an entrepreneur and digital nomad. So this is brand new in my life. It is exciting. It is scary still. So I don't have the magic formula. I'm still testing out things. There's plenty that I can improve, but it makes sense to me. Again, I go back to what is the lifestyle that I want to have. So what am I willing to give it a try, to test, to sacrifice, to have that? And the choice I made was, having my own business, which is definitely not the only choice. I could work for a company fully remotely, for example, with a flexible working hours. I could do that. I don't know, there are other options out there, but this was the one that I decided to give it a try. I'm on it, fully living it, improving, taking courses with other mentors, and talking to people, and putting myself in situations that I'm surrounded by people that have this lifestyle. This is something also extremely important, because before, my friends had a different mindset. They didn't understand, like, why are you, going to quit a stable job, a stable life to do that? So I could not talk to them about it because their perspective was limited. Was like they didn't have any background, any knowledge on it. So at some point I was like, I need to talk to other people because the kind of conversation I want to have, the kind of things that are interesting to me, I cannot talk about it with my previous friends. So I had also to shift, not ignoring my old friends, but like I need to add new people around me. And they say you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So I was like, okay, which kind of books I'm going to read, which kind of events I'm going to attend, where am I going to invest my money to be surrounded, like for proximity with those people, with kind of friends I want to hang out. So it was a big shift also in my how I use my time, the people I spend time with, and I share my ideas. So I'm still in process. I'm not done yet. There's a big learning for me, the entrepreneur side.
Yeah, I think you're so right about that as far as not letting go of the people who you're close to just because you're learning something new. So I have a group of friends that I play beach volleyball with, and that's our common element. Some of my friends are entrepreneurs, some of them are employees, some of them are unemployed. But that's not our area of meeting there. There we meet over that topic. And so we love that and we enjoy that. And we'll still have conversations, but I wouldn't go to all of them for my entrepreneurial ideas. Doesn't mean they're bad, just that's not their area. And certainly some of them, if I talked about that, they might be very fearful or whatnot. So I wouldn't want that. And vice versa, if I talked to some of my entrepreneur friends about playing volleyball, they're horrible at volleyball. I wouldn't want to play volleyball with them. Sorry, love them. I don't want to play volleyball with them. So I think that's something that people forget, that you can have multiple groups. And in fact, in my experience, it's always been better to have multiple groups of friends. I know I did that at least since high school or college, because when one group kind of got too serious, or when they'd be like really serious things like, well, we're mad about this and Johnny did this or Susie did this, I'm like, oh, I got to go over there, because I just didn't want to be in the middle of those conversations. But also, I think, no one group is going to meet all the needs for you. And I'm very familiar with, the 5 people you spend your time with. And I believe that things might be shifting. Maybe it's because of technology. Maybe it's because of how much we can connect with people. I almost think it's like groups of people, because I don't think it's just 5. In my case, I have a lot of people who are friends who are entrepreneurs, and I get a lot from them, but it's not any one particular, but it's almost like a group of people, but definitely a situation where that group of people, I have to surround myself with them when I'm trying to do something big, even something as simple as starting a podcast. I bought 2 courses from really good teachers, and I didn't start my podcast. It took me 7 years. And then finally, a friend that I met at an event helped me. And what she did is she had a course on doing a podcast, but she had a Zoom call every week for 6 weeks. And I just needed that. And here's the thing that some people say, well, wait, are you slow or this or that? No, I've got a master's degree. I've got insurance designations. I'm a 20-year entrepreneur, but in that area, yes, I'm slow in that, and I think that's what gets people, because I thought there must be something wrong with me. I did, and I do well at standardized tests, but I was a social moron growing up. So everybody's got their thing, but I needed that network, that support of people. But without that, whether it's the 5 people or the people around me, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And like you said, you sort of just kind of get to the point where you realize everybody else is thinking this way, and you start adopting that thinking, and that can be positive and not so positive depending on what the group is into. But certainly surrounding yourself with people who are legitimately doing it doesn't always mean somebody who's selling a course, because sometimes they don't know what they're doing, or they're just doing it, or they're teaching you a short part, or there's a lot of people who sell courses who actually don't realize what their journey was. So they might have been, okay, put it this way, in your journey, somebody might say, oh, so I can do what Juliana did in 5 years. I can do this. And I can, well, no, hold on. Juliana had a career before that she brought forward with her. And that's what that, like, so she didn't start at square zero. She already started, like you said, comparing our stage, our level, our step 5 with somebody else's step 1, or however that's worded, I forget. Or their page 1 with your page 30, or vice versa. But in essence, you already had something that was something as a foundation you built upon. And I think when people start taking a look at what are the assets and the things they have, it's not so difficult. One of the things I try to help people realize is, like you said, you might be able to right now, especially, there's never been an easier time that I can think of in history that I've been alive that you can work remotely than right now. And so to say, if I can help you, Mr. and Mrs. Employer, get such and such results, do you care where I'm located? Now, of course, some jobs don't lend themselves to that because if you're an in-person salesperson at a car dealership, well, you need to be there in person. That's the nature of that job. But there's other people, even in that same company, that have other jobs that they'd say, well, we don't care. And in fact, more and more companies don't even want the expenses. They don't want the overhead to pay for it. So they say, great, go work from wherever you're at. And as long as you can do the things you need to do, it's no different than having parents. When you do your chores, you can clean your room. When you eat your food, vegetables, you can eat your ice cream. I think it's, maybe this is, we need to make it simpler for people. It's not that difficult. When you do what you need to do, then you can do what you want to do. And it's some balance of the two. So last question I have for you, how do you keep the process joyful? Because the whole time I'm talking to you, what I'm noticing, and some people might be listening to it, but they probably can even hear it. If you're listening on the podcast, you can probably hear it through it. If you're watching the video, you can see this. Juliana is smiling about just about everything she's talking about. So I'm imagining somewhere in there's gratitude, there's appreciation. What do you do to keep yourself in that sort of a mindset? And how important is that to your success and what you've created so far?
It's extremely important. I discovered that, or I confirmed that. I have heard about it, but now I live it. Like when you have your own business, you grow as much. Your business will only grow as much as you grow as a person, as a human being. So it's extremely important to be happy with my life, to be healthy. So I pay attention to the things I eat, to doing exercise. I do yoga almost every day. So I knew those things were important, but now that I have my own business and I travel all the time, so that requires a lot of energy and a lot of decisions all the time. I need to make decisions more than if I were in my home and in the city that I live with the people that I know from since high school and all of that. So it's a lifestyle, this traveling all the time, being a digital nomad, that requires energy and decision. So I need to take care of myself. It's a choice, and I think it's the only choice that works, because it's not only about business, it's about the lifestyle, and it's about enjoying, as you said. So I constantly ask myself, am I happy here? Am I really enjoying it? Because it happens that I go to a place, I travel to a city that everybody loves, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, this is the perfect place to be. And then I'm there, and for some reason I'm not happy. Like, why am I not happy here? So I wish I were, because everybody says that that place is amazing and all of that, but then I'm not happy. So I need to be connected to myself and ask this question: do I want to stay longer here? Because I can't choose. That's the thing. That's the beauty of the lifestyle that I chose. So if I'm not happy in a place, of course, I'm going to give it a bit more of time, but it's like, I need to be true to myself. So if I'm not happy in a place, I can and I will move. If I'm offering a service that is not bringing me joy, or I'm doing it just like a robot mechanic thing, and it's like, oh my goodness, I have a new client, and not like, yeah, I have a new client, then it's time to review it. Or if the kind of people I'm surrounding myself with, it's only like putting me down for some reason, because I'm comparing to them, or because they don't value what I do, or they're not open to connect in a deeper way, I need to review my friendship. So it's a constant exercise of going back to the initial goal that I had, like a lifestyle that I enjoy, more freedom, having a bigger impact on people. So going back to the initial reason, initial goal, the initial motivation, and check on the way, is this working for me? Is this the place I want to be now? Is this the kind of impact I want to make into my clients? How am I using my time? Am I working too much, or should I put more time on work? Am I paying attention to my food? So there is no recipe, actually. It's just like being aware of, why am I on this path? Connect with my why again, right? Why did I start? Why did I change everything in my life to be here? And constant check, like, am I happy? Am I really enjoying it? Or why I'm sad? Why I'm crying today? Because there is crying on the way. There are sad moments. There are ups and downs. Like a life, it is a life. It's just that I chose a path that might be less traditional. But it's this constant, okay, stop, analyze here with your mind, but also with my heart. Am I happy? Am I enjoying? Does it still make sense to me? And if yes, keep going. If not, making the adjustments to bring the smile back. But I talk a lot about being happy. And I remember when I was writing the text for my website, the copywriter said, Juliana, there are too many times the word happy. it's getting repetitive. We need to find a synonym. Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
That's great. So one of the things we always put in the show notes, the links to all the different places to reach you. But in general, what's the best place? And you can just say like, LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is. What's the best place for people to connect with you to learn more about how you could help them with either career coaching services, helping them land a remote job, or doing some of what you're doing?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can just search for Juliana Rabbi, Rabbi. And also my website, which is also julianarabbi.com. You can find the links to all the social media.
Okay, awesome. And just for those listening, the correct pronunciation of her name is Juliana Rabbi, which I learned from her LinkedIn, but she's spelling it out Rabbi for those of us who wouldn't have known unless we listened to her LinkedIn profile that that's how you spell her name. But yeah, we'll have all those links in there. Thank you so much
Yes.
for coming and doing this. I think hopefully what a lot of people will take out of this is the process can be joyful. The process can be happy. It can be something that's uncertain, and that doesn't have to be bad. And again, so many people, I love your example of, going to a place that everybody says is awesome, and then it's just not. And it doesn't mean that the place is bad. It just maybe it wasn't your place. But thank you so much. So much of what you shared is just true from what I've seen. And I think so many people are trying to make this pivot and this transition. So definitely, if you get a chance, you want to learn more, you might not be able to find her physically because she's going to be all around the place, but you can find Juliana through the links and whatnot and connect with her. And so, as always, I look forward to helping you create the life and the lifestyle you most desire so you can better enjoy your family, your friends, and your life. Thanks for listening.